The President of the United States has tested positive for the coronavirus, throwing America's leadership and his re-election bid into uncertainty. President Trump and the First Lady have both been diagnosed with COVID-19, and we know top White House aide Hope Hicks also tested positive for the virus. She traveled with the president several times this week, potentially exposing many high-ranking officials within his circle. And this all comes after months of President Trump downplaying coronavirus risks, mocking mask wearing, and ignoring social distancing guidelines by holding massive campaign rallies. And now his re-election bid is facing new challenges. So for more on this, we want to bring in Trump campaign senior advisor, Corey Lewandowski. So, Corey, first off, I want to ask you if you've spoken to the president today, and can you tell us how he's feeling, what his status is? As we understand it, he's showing mild symptoms. Do you know what they are?
You know, I have not spoken to the president today. I had the opportunity to travel with him on Wednesday. I spent some time with him on Saturday of last week as he announced his nominee for the Supreme Court Justice. But I have not spoken to him today, and I know that I think the nation's prayers and probably the world's prayers are with him and Melania Trump, wishing them a speedy recovery.
Yeah, in fact, Corey, as you know, we've seen across the board from both Republicans and Democrats, including former Vice President Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, wishing the president a speedy recovery, praying for that quick recovery. You mentioned campaigning in Minnesota with the president on Wednesday. Have you been tested for the coronavirus since then?
You know, I just got back home here, my residence in New Hampshire. I am self-isolating right now. I have no symptoms whatsoever, but out of an abundance of cautiousness, I will be having a COVID test this afternoon. It's already been scheduled, so I'm doing the right thing. I'm home here, self-isolating. I'm going to go to the hospital, be tested, and then await those results.
You know, we just saw the president's chief of staff speak to reporters. He wasn't wearing a mask, and when he was asked about that, he said that there were protocols in place, and he was keeping his distance from the crowd of reporters that were there. I want to ask you, you've gone in and out of the White House, you're working with the campaign. Yes, there are protocols in place, but clearly the protocols weren't enough because the First Lady and the President have tested positive. Do you think it's time for these protocols to be perhaps changed or strengthened?
Sure, we should always look at the protocols that are in place and determine if they're the most efficient and most effective. And, you know, my experience anytime I've gone into the White House in the last 7 or 8 months is you immediately go down and you're COVID tested right away. You have to wait about 15 minutes for those results to come back before you're allowed to go anywhere else in the building, whether it's the Eisenhower Executive Office building or over to the White House itself. The same is true if you're in a motorcade or going to be on Air Force One. You're always tested first. And clearly, personal hygiene is important here. Washing your hands, using sanitizer, wearing masks, and social distancing. And so, you know, we saw that the president has been very strong when it related to the social distancing component, particularly at the debates. They kept the candidates away from each other and from the moderator. But this just goes to show that there is nobody in America that is immune from potentially catching this virus.
That's a good point that you make there, Corey.
No, but Corey, what about masks? What about masks, Corey? I mean, we have, you know, first responders who have been working day in and day out in hospitals, and they don't test positive because they make sure that they wear masks in addition to all the other protocol that they're supposed to follow. And, you know, there has been reporting that mask wearing has been sort of discouraged within the White House, and that even, you know, members of President Trump's family that attended the debate were offered masks and they turned them down.
Yeah, you know, I don't know about that. I can tell you I've never been discouraged from wearing a mask inside the White House, as a matter of fact. It's kind of cool. I flew commercial last night, and I had this great mask on. I had the seal of the President of the United States on one side, and the other side said, Made in America. And what we've seen about masks is they're now a reflection of those individuals who wear them. We see football masks and baseball masks, and people are making statements with their masks. And I think in a very short amount of time, the American people have embraced the wearing of masks and are showing themselves through that mask wearing. And look, whenever you board a commercial flight, whenever you're in the general public, masks are almost always required. And I can tell you, as someone who's visited the White House on many occasions, I've never been dissuaded or discouraged from wearing a mask.
So then, Corey, why did President Trump mock Vice President Biden at the debates for his wearing of the mask? Why has he suggested to reporters that he doesn't even believe that masks are effective?
I know the president had his mask. I think he took it out during the debate. Maybe it was a prop, maybe it wasn't, but he took it out and he showed everybody that he had his mask with him. And I think what the president was saying was Joe Biden walks up into a podium, and there's nobody within 25 feet of him, and he walks up wearing the mask. And look, here's what we've seen, unfortunately. We've seen politicians use this as a cudgel, as something to pretend that they're trying to actually impact the coronavirus. We have a hot mic incident just this week where two politicians walk up and don't realize the mic is on and say, hey, let's walk up with the masks on to make it look like we're doing something. And so I think that's really what the president was talking about.
Right. But, Corey, I think the point is that it's just displaying a good behavior and an example to the American people on the more you see our politicians and the people who are running for higher office wearing the mask, and the more often that they are photographed with them, that will allow people to understand how important it is to do so in their own private lives. The president, on the other hand, has, as you know, he has mocked mask wearing, and up until this where we are today, a lot of the information that has come to us from our public health officials, like Dr. Fauci, Dr. Redfield, Dr. Birx, the president, and others have sort of disregarded and have sort of said that these are just opinions, or these are things that are done to prevent Americans from living their lives. And in fact, as you know, these are life-saving measures that they're recommending.
I think it's really important that people have a sense of personal responsibility, and I think people should wear masks. And the president said that publicly, but I also think it's up to individuals. And, I'm a small government kind of guy, and I don't want the government mandating what I have to do. I live in the live free or die state, the state of New Hampshire, where we're the only state left in the country that doesn't mandate seatbelt use if you're over the age of 18, because we believe that you can make your own decisions and have your own personal responsibility. Now, do I put my seatbelt on every day? You bet I do, because it's the right thing to do. But I don't think the government has to tell me everything to do. And we have seen different states deal with this pandemic in very different ways. And so I think people should be wearing masks. We know that when you go to a private establishment, whether it be a restaurant or on an airplane, they mandate mask use. And if you don't abide by those rules, then you don't get to patronize those establishments. And that's perfectly fine. That's how things should be. And so I encourage people to wear their masks. I encourage people to maintain social distance, to wash your hands, to use hand sanitizer, to not engage. And particularly, if you're in a high-risk category, then you need to take extra precautions, whether you're elderly or you have a pre-existing condition. We have to make sure you're doing everything possible to stay safe.
So I would hope, Corey, that would be sorry, Emery, I was going to say, I would hope that would be the message. I know you're on the campaign, that we would start to see that. We'd start to see that on the Trump website, that we'd start to hear from others who are surrogates for the campaign saying that. And your point is well taken. You want to stay healthy, so you wear a mask. You want to continue to enjoy your life, so you wear a seatbelt. That's wonderful.
I'll tell you this. Whenever we have done a campaign stop, and, we've done a number of these airport rallies now, we mandate everybody who walks through those doors, when they come through the magnetometers, they are handed a mask. We mandate that they wear them in compliance with usually state protocols and state requirements. And I think that's the right thing to do. And if somebody decides to take off their mask after we've given it to them, I can't, as an individual, go and force them to wear it. But we are telling everybody mask mandates are required anytime you come to a rally where the president is. Not only do we hand out masks, but we hand out hand sanitizers. We are, through our public address systems, making sure that people understand what the protocols and the requirements are when you come to these. And look, a lot of people want to come out and see the president, but we're asking you to do so very responsibly.
Corey, just moving forward with the campaign, you talked about the rallies, the outdoor rallies even. We know that this is something, or we've been told that this is something that the president enjoys doing. And, experts have said that there are all sorts of factors that either increase or decrease your susceptibility to this virus, right? So, sure, if you're outside versus inside, that helps. But it's also duration of time, the number of people you're around. Are people yelling? Are they singing? Are they speaking loudly? So while these rallies are outside, there are other factors that also increase the risk of exposure. I'm wondering if moving forward, if the campaign may reconsider this, the rallies as part of the process to sort of reach out to voters.
It's a great question. And when we were first learning about the pandemic, all of our campaign activities were suspended as the right thing to do. We started doing what we call telephone town hall rallies. So the president would get on the phone and talk to people in respective communities as opposed to having those in-person visits. And look, we are seeing every state now in the country starting to reopen, but we must be vigilant. We know New York now has the opportunity where people can come into restaurants and sit down inside with a 25% capacity, because we want to have people go back to the normal lifestyle that they had pre-pandemic virus. But you have to do so with personal responsibility. And so the campaign has not made the decision if they're going to suspend all future rallies. Obviously, the rally we were going to do in Florida today has been canceled. The president will not be traveling to Wisconsin tomorrow, where we had 3 additional rallies planned. But I don't think the long-term implications of what the status of future rallies after the president has been done self-isolating has been determined yet.
And Corey, really quickly before we let you go, can you help us with the timeline, help establish a timeline? You talked about trying to keep people safe, the personal responsibility. We're learning that the president learned on Thursday, yesterday morning, that Hope Hicks, his close aide, had tested positive for the coronavirus, but yet the president proceeded with a campaign event in Bedminster, New Jersey for that $5 million fundraiser. Why did he do that?
I don't know. So look, just to be clear, I know that Hope traveled with the president on Wednesday to Minnesota. I saw her on Wednesday. It's my understanding that she began to have, and she was tested Wednesday and tested negative. And that's my understanding she had symptoms on the way back from the Minnesota rally and tested on Thursday, presumably when she went into the White House. I don't know what time that was. I don't know if she had any interaction with the president. And I don't know when she got those results back that she was then testing positive for COVID-19. So I'm not sure exactly of how the time frame worked, and I don't know what time the fundraiser was in Bedminster. If the president was aware that Hope was positive, it seemed to be that most of us found out late last night, probably sometime around 8 or 9 p.m., that Hope had tested positive, and the president immediately let the American people know that he and the First Lady had gone and been tested, and by 1 a.m., he had notified us that he and the First Lady were also positive. So I don't know the time frame. I don't know what time the event was in New Jersey yesterday, and I don't know what time he was notified that Hope had tested positive.
All right, Corey Lewandowski, always great to have you here on CBSN. Thank you very much, sir. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
And Corey's new book, Trump, America First, The President Succeeds Against All Odds, is now available online and in stores.